Sometimes, I catch myself staring out the window of my tiny apartment, watching the city move on without me. It's this weird mix of feeling invisible and painfully aware all at once, like the world's rushing forward, but I'm stuck in place, struggling just to keep my head above water. I'm 27 now, and I thought by this age I'd have some kind of stability, some clear path ahead. Instead, it feels like I'm trapped in this endless cycle where the bills pile up faster than my paycheck, and every choice I make is shadowed by the weight of money. I grew up believing that hard work would pay off, that if I just kept at it, I'd be able to build a life that didn't feel like survival. But the reality is harsh. Rent, groceries, utilities, everything seems to keep climbing, while my income barely budges. Every month, I watch my savings shrink or disappear altogether, no matter how careful I try to be. And honestly, it's exhausting. The constant pressure isn't just financial, it seeps into every corner of my life. The mornings are the hardest. I wake up with this tight knot in my stomach, knowing that the day will be a juggling act between work, bills, and trying to find some space for myself without spending money I don't have. I'm working 2 part-time jobs, sometimes late into the night, because a single paycheck just doesn't cut it. But it's not like either job offers any real security or benefits. It's the kind of grind that leaves you drained but still worried about what might happen if you miss a shift or get sick. Food, for example, has become a balancing game. I know what healthy meals look like and taste like, back when I had more time and money to invest in cooking. Now, I'm stuck between grabbing quick, cheap options that barely satisfy, or skipping meals sometimes just to save a few dollars. It's embarrassing to admit, but I've definitely eaten less some weeks because I had to decide between food and paying for my phone bill or internet. I need the internet for work, but if the bills pile up, they threaten to cut it off, and then everything feels like it's slipping away even faster. Social life is a ghost of what it used to be. I used to love meeting friends for coffee, going to concerts, or even just a casual dinner out. Now, I avoid those invitations because I know I can't afford to say yes, but I also can't afford to say no, not because of the money, but because I don't want to feel like the odd one out, the person who's always the cant in the room. It's lonely, in a way that gnaws at you. Sometimes I wonder if people just stop inviting me because I always have to decline. And it's not just social stuff. I've had to postpone plans for things like travel, higher education, or even seeing a therapist, which I really want but can't justify the cost. There's this frustrating feeling of being caught in a system that doesn't seem designed for people like me. Inflation goes up, rents rise, prices climb, but wages stay stagnant or barely move. I hear politicians talk about economic growth, but growth feels like a word that applies to them, not me. It feels like the deck is stacked, expenses grow like weeds, and I'm stuck trying to prune them back with tools that don't quite fit. Sometimes I think about giving up or just accepting a lower standard of living, but that feels like admitting defeat, like surrendering the dreams I had. And those dreams, I still have them, buried deep. I wanted to travel, to see the world beyond the city limits. I wanted to go back to school, maybe get a degree or learn a skill that could open doors. I dreamed about owning a little place, a space that was mine, where I could feel safe and build a life. But every month, those dreams feel farther away. I tell myself they're just postponed, not gone, but it's hard not to wonder if they'll ever be within reach. What keeps me going, though, is the small things. Sometimes it's the smile of a friend who understands what I'm going through, even if they don't have the same struggles. Sometimes it's the brief moments of peace when I'm walking home late at night, the city quiet around me, and I let myself imagine what life could be like if the numbers on my bills looked different. I try to find gratitude in the little victories, making rent on time, finding a sale at the grocery store, getting through a tough day without breaking down. I've also learned to cope in ways I never expected. I talk openly with close friends about money, something I used to be ashamed of. I track every expense obsessively, even though it feels like a losing battle, because ignoring it only makes things worse. I've discovered free resources for mental health and support groups online, places where I can share my frustrations and not feel so alone. And I remind myself, often, that I'm more than my financial situation, that my worth isn't measured by a bank account or a credit score. But there are nights when the pressure crushes me, when I lie awake wondering how I got here and if things will ever change. The system feels cold and indifferent, and I'm just one person caught in the gears. I wish I could say I have a clear plan for how to break free, but mostly I just take it day by day, holding on to hope in small doses. So here I am, trying to keep moving forward despite everything. Trying to be honest with myself about the struggle, because pretending it's easy doesn't help anyone. I'm tired, yes, but I'm still dreaming, even if those dreams have to wait a little longer, they haven't disappeared. Maybe one day, I'll look back and see that this pressure was a hard chapter, but not the whole story. Until then, I'm doing my best to survive and, somehow, to live. That's my reality, complicated, frustrating, but still filled with a stubborn hope that keeps me going. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments, I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. I never thought I'd be this person, the one who dreads opening the mail because of bills, who counts every penny like it's a limited resource, who feels the crushing weight of money slipping through fingers no matter how tightly I try to hold on. But here I am, in my late 20s, stuck in a constant push and pull with an economy that feels designed to squeeze me dry. I wake up most mornings with this dull ache in my chest, not quite panic, but close enough. It's the pressure of knowing rent is due in a few days, the credit card statement arrived already ballooning with interest, and the grocery budget is stretched thinner than I'd like to admit. My job pays the bills, barely. Each paycheck covers what it must, but there's never anything left over to breathe with, to save, or to splurge even just a little. It's like running on a treadmill that's speeding up while my legs get heavier. The hardest part is how invisible it all feels. People talk about the cost of living crisis like it's a headline, a statistic, a news story. But for me, it's the empty pantry shelves that didn't get restocked, the gas gauge that gets checked more often than I want, the choice between a night out with friends or just staying home alone because spending $20 feels like a luxury. It's the quiet nights where I sit with a spreadsheet of my expenses and income, trying to figure out if skipping lunch for a week could really make a difference. I used to dream big, maybe not extravagant dreams, but the kind most people take for granted. Owning a home felt like a future I could plan for, a place where I wouldn't worry about rent hikes every year. I thought maybe I'd travel a bit, see the world outside the city limits, or even go back to school to study something I loved, not just something practical. But those dreams have slowly faded, shoved aside by months and now years of choosing survival over aspiration. Every day, I feel trapped in a system where expenses grow faster than my income: rent, utilities, groceries, transportation, healthcare. Even the smallest things have a price tag that stretches the budget to breaking. Inflation is a word I see tossed around in headlines, but its reality lives in the fridge that's almost empty or the text message from the phone company threatening to cut off service. It's relentless and exhausting. Emotionally, it's draining. There's a loneliness in this struggle, even when surrounded by people. It's hard to explain that you can't join a friend's birthday dinner because your wallet won't allow it. I feel ashamed sometimes, like I'm failing at adulthood. How did everything get so complicated? Why does it feel like everyone else is moving forward except me? I catch myself scrolling through social media, watching others post about vacations, new cars, or even just a fancy coffee, and it's a mix of jealousy, frustration, and deep sadness. To cope, I've learned to be resourceful. Coupon clipping, cooking meals from scratch, walking instead of taking the bus when I can, avoiding any extras. I talk myself into these small sacrifices as temporary, but the temporary keeps stretching. I find comfort in tiny victories: a day without overspending, a conversation with a friend who understands, a moment when I can laugh despite everything. Sometimes I write, trying to capture this mess of feelings, hoping that putting it into words will somehow make it less heavy. But there's also fear. Fear that this is my life now, that I'll never break out of this cycle. I worry about what happens if something unexpected comes up, a medical bill, a car repair, a family emergency. Without savings or a safety net, those things feel like catastrophes waiting to happen. It's like walking a tightrope with no net, hoping not to fall but knowing one misstep could be devastating. And yet, despite all this, there's a flicker of hope that won't quite go out. I still want to believe that if I keep pushing, keep working, keep making these tough choices, something better will come. Maybe it's naive, or maybe it's necessary. Maybe my dreams will have to wait a little longer, but I haven't given up on them. I imagine a day when I'm not counting dollars just to survive, when I can breathe easy, and maybe even save for that trip or class or down payment. This story is my reality, raw and honest. It's a story I share because maybe, just maybe, it'll remind someone else they're not alone in feeling trapped by circumstances they didn't choose. It's not just about money, it's about dignity, security, and the quiet hope that someday, things will get better. Until then, I keep waking up, budgeting, sacrificing, and dreaming, even if those dreams have to live in the margins for now. I never thought I'd feel this way, like I'm running in place, sprinting as fast as I can but still stuck in the same spot. It's not just the paycheck-to-paycheck grind, though that's part of it. It's this deeper, heavier weight of watching everything around me get more expensive while my income barely budges. I'm 27, working full-time, and still constantly wondering how I'll make rent next month, let alone save for anything bigger. I remember when I first moved out on my own, just after college. I thought I was prepared. I had a job that paid okay, a budget I thought I could manage, and a handful of dreams, some vague, some pretty clear. I wanted to travel, to maybe buy a car, to start building a small safety net for emergencies. I imagined I'd have a little cushion, that the hard work now would pay off soon. But every month feels like a new battle. The rent keeps inching up, more than my salary did. Utilities, groceries, internet, phone, transportation, all creeping higher and higher. Some days it's the little things that sting the most. Like when I want to meet friends for dinner, but the thought of spending $30 on a meal feels like throwing money away. So I say no, again. Or when I browse online for a jacket I need because spring's coming, but the price tag stops me cold. Instead, I wear last year's coat, even though it's frayed and doesn't fit quite right anymore. It's frustrating because I know I'm making sacrifices, yet the end of the month still feels like a cliff I'm barely hanging on to. What really gets to me is the feeling that no matter what I do, the system is rigged to keep me in this loop. The expenses don't just rise, they outpace every raise or bonus I get. It's like trying to fill a bucket with a hole in the bottom. I pay off one bill, and two more pop up. I try to save a little, but unexpected costs, car repairs, medical bills, even replacing worn-out shoes, wipe it all out. The stress gnaws at me, even when I'm trying to rest. Sleep feels less like a refuge and more like the time when I'm alone with my worries. Emotionally, it's exhausting. Some days I feel ashamed, like I'm failing at adulting or not trying hard enough. Social media doesn't help, everyone seems to be living their best life, traveling or buying homes, while I'm clutching my paycheck like a lifeline. But I know this isn't just about personal failure. It's about a larger, invisible force, this economic pressure that squeezes out hope bit by bit. I've had to postpone so many dreams. I used to want to go back to school, maybe for a master's degree or some certification that would open doors. But tuition, living costs, and lost income make it impossible right now. I wanted to move somewhere bigger and more vibrant, but the rent there is a fantasy at my current salary. I dream of having a little savings to invest or start a side hustle, but there's no extra cash to seed that. Even small things like buying books, seeing a movie, or going to the gym feel like luxuries. Coping is a mix of trying to be practical and holding on to small joys. I meal prep to avoid eating out. I hunt for discounts and use every coupon I can find. I cut subscriptions and shared streaming accounts with friends to save a few bucks. I talk openly with close friends about money, it helps to remind me I'm not alone in this. Sometimes I write down what I'm grateful for, even when it feels forced, just to shift my mindset. And when things get overwhelming, I try to step back and breathe, knowing that this isn't forever. But it's hard not to get cynical. I catch myself wondering if I'm just stuck in a loop designed to keep people like me working harder but never really getting ahead. If I'm trapped in a system that benefits those already at the top while the rest of us scramble to keep up with rising costs and stagnant wages. That feeling makes it hard to stay motivated. Why chase a promotion or work extra hours if it won't really change the picture? Still, I hold on to hope. Maybe one day, the economy will shift. Maybe wages will rise meaningfully. Maybe I'll find a better job, or a new city that offers better opportunities. Maybe I'll be able to finally travel, or take that course, or save for a place of my own. For now, I'm learning to find contentment in the small wins, covering all my bills on time, having a little left over for a night out, or just surviving another month without falling into debt. This financial pressure is a quiet, constant weight, shaping every choice I make, every hope I tuck away for later. It's a reminder that the life I imagined is still possible, but it will take patience, resilience, and maybe a bit of luck. I don't want to give up on those dreams, but I'm learning to live in the space between what is and what could be, holding on to the belief that better days are ahead, even if they're not right now. So here I am, telling this story not because I have all the answers, but because maybe someone else feels the same way. Maybe hearing this helps them know they're not alone in the struggle. Because sometimes, just being honest about the pressure, the frustration, and the hope can be a small act of courage in a system that wants to keep us quiet and trapped. Sometimes, I wonder if this pressure will ever loosen its grip. Every morning, I wake up with a knot in my stomach, a familiar ache that's settled in over the past few years. It's the kind of ache that comes not from a physical wound but from the relentless tug of financial stress, the feeling that no matter how hard I try, the weight of money keeps pushing me down, suffocating my hope. I'm in my mid-20s, an age when I thought life would start to open up, when I'd be carving out my place in the world, chasing dreams. Instead, I'm constantly juggling bills, rent, groceries, and debt. The economy feels like a fast-moving train I can't hop onto because it's accelerating faster than I can run. Prices go up, on everything, but my paycheck stays the same or barely inches forward. It's maddening, a slow bleed that's exhausting to live with. Everyday decisions are a game of survival. Should I buy the generic brand cereal this week, or try to stretch out the fancy one I bought last time, even though it's almost gone? Can I afford to take the bus or should I walk that extra mile, saving the fare, even when my legs ache? Should I skip lunch to save money or try to eat something so I don't crash halfway through the afternoon? These choices seem small on the surface, but they pile up, layering anxiety over every minute of my day. I remember last winter, when my heating bill shot up unexpectedly, and I had to decide between keeping the apartment warm or paying off a part of my credit card balance. I chose the heat, obviously, but that decision haunted me. The credit card debt grew, and so did the interest. It's like a vicious cycle with no clear escape route. Every time I think I'm getting ahead, an unexpected expense pushes me back down. Emotionally, it's a constant battle. There are days when the stress turns into this heavy fog of despair, making it hard to see beyond the next bill or paycheck. I try to mask it, keep a brave face around friends and family, but inside, I'm often overwhelmed. Sometimes, late at night, I lie awake, replaying my bank account in my head, trying to figure out if there's some magic formula to stretch what little I have. There isn't. The thing is, I had dreams once, vivid ones. I wanted to travel, see the world, maybe start my own business one day. I thought I'd have the freedom to make choices based on passion, not survival. But those dreams feel so far away now. I've had to postpone them indefinitely, sometimes even convince myself they're not realistic anymore. The world feels like a place where dreams are luxuries, and I'm stuck in a grind where every dollar has to count. Yet, I cope. I cling to small moments of joy and hope. Cooking meals at home, even if they're simple, sometimes feels like a tiny act of rebellion against this crushing pressure. Talking with friends who understand this struggle reminds me I'm not alone. I've started journaling, putting these fears and frustrations on paper helps me breathe. I'm learning to accept help, even though it's hard to ask. The system feels rigged, like it's designed to keep people like me locked in place, always chasing after a moving target. The gap between expenses and income isn't just a financial math problem, it's a daily, emotional drain. But beneath the exhaustion, there's still a flicker of hope. Maybe one day, this won't be the story I tell. Maybe I'll find a way out, or the world will change enough to give people like me a fair chance. Until then, I take it one day at a time, holding on to the belief that I'm more than my struggles, that my dreams aren't lost, just waiting for the right moment to grow again. This isn't just about money. It's about dignity, freedom, and the quiet fight to keep believing in something better. It's a quiet Wednesday evening, and I'm sitting on the edge of my tiny couch, staring at the stack of bills on the kitchen table. They're all due this week: rent, utilities, phone, credit card. The numbers don't lie, but they don't tell the whole story either. Every month, it feels like the cost of living grows a little faster than my paycheck, and somehow, I keep falling behind. I'm 27, working full-time at a job that, on paper, seems decent. Not glamorous or high-paying, but stable enough that I should be able to keep my head above water. Yet, here I am, constantly scrambling to cover the essentials, juggling expenses like a tightrope walker who's lost their balance. I didn't think it would be like this when I was younger. I imagined a future where I'd have some savings, maybe a car, maybe even start thinking about a place of my own. Instead, I'm stuck in this loop where every paycheck disappears faster than I expect, swallowed by rent hikes, rising grocery prices, and the relentless increase in just about everything. The worst part is the feeling of being trapped. It's not just about the money, it's the mental weight that comes with it. I wake up each day with a low hum of anxiety in my chest. I can almost feel the system closing in around me, a machine that's designed to keep me just barely afloat but never truly free. It's like running on a treadmill that keeps speeding up no matter how fast I run. I'm exhausted, but there's no off switch. I remember last year, when inflation really started hitting hard, and I watched my rent jump by nearly 15%. That was the moment I realized things weren't going to get easier. I tried to cut back where I could, no more dining out, fewer trips to the grocery store, switching to cheaper brands, but even with all the penny pinching, I was still falling behind. My emergency fund disappeared months ago, eaten up by unexpected car repairs and medical bills. Sometimes, I stay up late scrolling through forums or social media, reading about others in similar situations. It's both comforting and heartbreaking. Comforting because I'm not alone, heartbreaking because there's no clear way out. People talk about budgeting, side hustles, investing, but when your income barely covers your bills, it feels like those options are just words on a screen, not something you can really grasp. Emotionally, it's a roller coaster. There are days when I'm hopeful, telling myself that if I just work a little harder, keep saving a little more, eventually I'll get ahead. But those moments are often followed by waves of despair, when I realize I'm postponing so many dreams just to keep the lights on. I put off going back to school because I can't afford the tuition. I've delayed seeing friends because I can't justify the cost of public transport or a coffee out. Even simple things like replacing worn-out shoes or upgrading my phone feel like luxuries. The constant financial pressure bleeds into my self-worth. I sometimes wonder if I'm failing simply because I can't keep up, or if the system itself is rigged against people like me, people who work hard but get squeezed by forces outside their control. It's a bitter pill to swallow. I want to believe that my efforts matter, that my future isn't doomed, but the evidence is hard to ignore. To cope, I've had to develop a kind of emotional armor. I try to celebrate small victories, like making it through the month without missing a payment or finding a discount on groceries. I journal sometimes, pouring out the frustration and fear so it doesn't feel so heavy inside. I've started meditation, which helps calm the constant background noise of worry. And I hold on to hope, even if it's faint, that one day the balance will tip. I dream about what life could be like without this pressure. I imagine waking up and not immediately thinking about money, imagining a day when I can buy something just because I want to, not because I need to. I picture having a little cushion, a safety net that lets me breathe. And maybe, eventually, I'll be able to help others who are stuck in this same cycle. For now, though, I'm still here, navigating this tightrope, trying to find a foothold in a world that feels like it's always one step ahead. It's exhausting, frustrating, and lonely at times, but I'm holding on. Because if I don't, who will? It's late again. The kind of late where the world outside feels quiet, almost peaceful, but inside my head, the noise is louder than ever. The numbers haunt me: bills, rent, groceries, the ever-growing list of things I have to pay for that somehow never seem to stop multiplying. I'm 27, working full-time, doing what I'm supposed to do, but the paycheck barely stretches far enough to cover the basics. And that sinking feeling, that I'm running faster but getting nowhere, never really leaves me. Every morning, I wake up and go through the motions. Alarm buzzes, I drag myself out of bed, and before I even brush my teeth, my mind starts racing. What needs to be paid this week? Is there enough left to put something in my savings? Can I afford to fill up my gas tank or buy a coffee? Sometimes, I wonder how people manage to think beyond that day, that hour. For me, the moment-to-moment survival consumes all my energy. It's not like I don't work hard. I do. I clock in 8, sometimes 10 hours at a retail job that pays a little above minimum wage. The work is exhausting, physical, and often thankless. Customers don't care if I'm tired or stressed, they just want what they want, when they want it. And then there are the bills, utilities, phone, internet, the rent that somehow increased again last month. Every time I look at the latest statement, I feel this tightening in my chest. How am I supposed to keep up when these costs rise faster than my paycheck grows? The system feels rigged, like it's designed to squeeze every last cent out of people like me. I've had to make choices that, looking back, break my heart a little. Last year, I postponed going to the doctor because I couldn't afford the copay. I've stopped buying new clothes, even when my old ones are threadbare. I cut back on groceries, buying cheaper, less nutritious food, which leaves me feeling sluggish but saves a few dollars. Social invitations? I decline more than I accept, knowing that a night out means spending on dinner or transportation I just can't justify. It's lonely, but the alternative is worse: more debt, more stress. Sometimes, I try to talk about it with friends or family, but the words catch in my throat. It's embarrassing to admit you're struggling when you're supposed to be an adult, when society tells you this is the time to be independent, to build a future. But the truth is, I feel trapped. Trapped in a cycle where no matter how hard I work, the goalposts keep moving. Prices climb, debts pile up, and my dreams get shoved further and further to the back burner. I used to dream about going back to school, maybe studying something I loved, something that could lead to a better job. But even that feels impossible now. Tuition is too high, student loans a terrifying prospect. I pushed that dream away, telling myself it's not the right time. Maybe next year, I say. But next year always comes with the same challenges. It's like the system is designed to keep people like me tethered to survival mode, to discourage dreaming or upward movement. Some days, the stress is overwhelming. There are moments when I lie awake at night, heart pounding, wondering if I'll ever feel secure. Will I ever have a cushion? Will I ever be able to afford to move out on my own? Will I be stuck in this loop forever? The weight of uncertainty presses down hard, and it's exhausting just to keep going. But I try to cope. I find small ways to hold on. I listen to podcasts about personal finance, trying to learn how to manage what little I have better. I cut back on unnecessary spending, which often means missing out but also teaches me resilience. I reach out to a few friends when I can, those rare connections that remind me I'm not alone. I keep a journal sometimes, spilling out my frustrations and hopes, even if they feel fragile. And despite everything, there's still a flicker of hope. I hold on to the belief that this isn't my forever. That maybe, someday, the scales will tip. That maybe I'll get a better job, or a raise, or find a way to get back to school. That maybe the cost of living will stop rising so relentlessly, or that I'll find a community or support network that can help. I try to remind myself that it's okay to be vulnerable, to admit when it's hard, to dream quietly even if the world around me seems determined to silence those dreams. This life, with all its pressure and pain, is real. But so is the strength I'm discovering in myself every day. I'm more than the sum of my bills and paychecks. I'm more than this relentless climb. And even though it's hard to see sometimes, I still believe in a future where I'm not just surviving, but living. For now, I take it one day, one breath, one small step at a time. Because that's all I can do. And maybe that's enough. A young adult holding on in a tough world. I never thought I'd find myself here, caught in this endless loop where it feels like I'm running just to stand still. The bills keep stacking up, prices rise, and my paycheck seems to shrink in comparison. Every day, I wake up with this heavy knot in my chest, a weight that's been pressing down for so long I barely notice it anymore. It's just life now. I'm 27, living in a small apartment that's way too expensive for what it is. It's cramped, noisy, and the heating barely works in winter. But it's home, or at least, that's what I tell myself. Some nights, I lie awake listening to the faint hum of the city outside and wonder how I got stuck here. How did something that once felt so full of promise become this constant grind to cover the basics? When I was a kid, I had dreams. Not anything extravagant, just the hope of a steady job, maybe owning a little house someday, traveling a bit, feeling secure enough to plan for the future. But those dreams seem to be slipping farther away with every passing year. It's like the world moved on, and I'm still stuck trying to catch up. The job market today isn't what my parents had. I work full-time, but every raise feels like a drop in the bucket compared to how much rent, groceries, and utilities go up. One day I saw my paycheck, did the math, and realized I'm actually losing money month over month when I factor in inflation. That was a punch to the gut. I asked myself how this was possible. How can I work 40 hours a week and still not feel like I'm getting anywhere? Expenses feel like a tide that just keeps rising, swallowing whatever I manage to save. The rent goes up again next month. The electric bill jumped. Groceries are more expensive. Even the little things, a cup of coffee, a night out with friends, have become luxuries I can't afford. I used to laugh with friends about spontaneous plans, but now I have to check my bank app first and calculate every penny. Sometimes I feel ashamed to admit this pressure. Like I'm failing somehow, or that I'm not trying hard enough. I see people on social media living what looks like perfect lives, traveling or buying new things, and I wonder what's wrong with me. But I know that's just a highlight reel. No one shares the quiet anxiety of opening bills or choosing between filling the fridge or paying for medication. Most days, I get through by convincing myself it's temporary. I tell myself this is just a phase, that one day I'll find something better, a job that pays enough, or a break in the market. But deep down, I'm scared the system is rigged in a way that makes it impossible to escape. It's like I'm running on a treadmill that keeps speeding up, but my legs won't go any faster. Coping has become a series of small, deliberate choices. I meal prep to save money and avoid eating out. I cut back on entertainment, cancel subscriptions, and say no to things I want but don't need. I try to remind myself that my mental health matters, but sometimes I just feel exhausted, emotionally drained by the constant balancing act. The stress has started affecting my sleep and my mood. I catch myself snapping at people or withdrawing from friends because I don't have the energy to engage. There's a part of me that grieves quietly. I grieve for the dreams I've had to postpone, buying a home, traveling to see the world beyond this city, even saving for things like a car or starting a family someday. These feel like luxuries now, distant goals that are swallowed by rent and bills. I try not to think about it too much because the weight of it can be overwhelming. But I still hope. Hope that things will change, that I'll find a way out of this rut. That maybe one day I can breathe without the constant dread of money running out. I cling to the idea that my worth isn't defined by my bank account, even though that's hard to believe some days. I remind myself that I'm not alone, so many people are in this same fight, trying to navigate a world where financial stability feels like an impossible puzzle. Writing this down helps. It makes the invisible struggle feel a little more real, a little less lonely. Because even though the pressure feels suffocating, I'm still here. Still fighting. Still hoping. And maybe, that's enough for now. So for now, I'll keep taking it one day at a time, paying my bills, looking for better opportunities, holding on to those dreams quietly in the back of my mind. Because giving up is not an option, even when the system seems designed to keep me trapped. I never imagined I'd feel this way at 27. Like I'm caught in a loop I can't break out of, the kind where every month, every paycheck, feels like it's just sliding further and further behind the ever-rising tide of bills and expenses. It's like running on a treadmill that's speeding up, faster than I can keep pace. No matter how hard I run, I'm still stuck in the same place, maybe even falling backward. I graduated college with a lot of hope, though maybe naive hope. I thought, if I get a decent job, pay off my student loans, and budget carefully, I'll be okay. But that was years ago, and the cost of living has shot through the roof since then. Rent alone eats up over half my monthly income, and utilities, groceries, transportation, all those basic things just keep going up, month after month. And my pay? It's barely budged. Some days, I have to remind myself why I'm doing this. The alarm goes off at 6:30 a.m., and instead of feeling energized or hopeful, there's this heavy weight in my chest, anxiety mixed with exhaustion. I shuffle through the morning routine like a ghost, shower, dress, coffee, out the door. At work, I'm constantly aware of every little cost. Can I afford lunch out with coworkers today, or should I pack something from home? Should I turn off the heat and wrap myself in a blanket at night to save a few bucks? Each choice feels loaded with consequence. Evenings aren't much better. Instead of relaxing or doing something creative, I'm hunched over spreadsheets, tracking every cent. The credit card statements glare back at me like a judgment. The minimum payments are getting harder to meet, and I'm scared of what might happen if I slip up even once. I try to sleep, but the stress keeps me tossing and turning, heart pounding. It's embarrassing, honestly. I see my friends posting on social media about weekend trips, new gadgets, or dining out, and here I am, choosing between buying a needed medication or groceries. I don't tell anyone how tight things really are because I'm afraid they'll see me differently, like I'm not handling adulting or worse, that I'm failing. So I keep my struggles to myself, which only makes the isolation worse. The feeling of being trapped is the hardest part. I look ahead, and it's like there's a glass wall. I can see dreams and opportunities on the other side, maybe owning a home, starting a family, or traveling, but no matter what I do, I can't touch them. Every month, more money goes toward necessities and debt, and less is left for saving or investing in my future. Sometimes I wonder if the system itself is designed to keep people like me locked in place, spinning our wheels just to survive. Despite all this, I'm trying to hold on to hope. I remind myself of the small wins. Paying off a credit card, getting a raise, even if it barely keeps up with inflation, or finding a cheaper grocery store. I've also learned to be creative with how I cope, cooking meals from scratch, swapping clothes with friends, and even just finding joy in free things like walks or podcasts. Therapy has helped me, too, to process the fear and frustration rather than burying it. There are nights when I let myself cry, for the dreams I've had to postpone, for the time lost worrying instead of living fully. I had always pictured a life where I'd have freedom to explore and take risks, but right now, freedom feels like a luxury I can't afford. I hope someday to break free from this cycle, to look back and say, you made it through. For now, I keep moving forward the only way I know how, one careful, sometimes painful step at a time. Hey, friends! If you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what can be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. I never thought I'd feel this way in my 20s, like I'm stuck in quicksand, sinking deeper the harder I try to get out. Every month feels like a rerun of the same nightmare. I wake up hopeful, telling myself this time things might be different, but by midday, the weight of money worries drags me back down. I graduated college with a degree I was proud of. Back then, the future looked full of possibilities. I imagined landing a decent job, maybe even moving out on my own, traveling a bit, and saving up for a little apartment somewhere cozy. But reality hit hard and fast. The economic environment is nothing like the pictures painted during those idealistic days. The cost of living has spiraled out of control, while my paycheck barely stretches to cover the essentials. Rent alone consumes nearly half of my income. I live in a shared apartment to keep costs manageable, but even splitting bills with roommates doesn't erase the crushing pressure. Utilities, groceries, transit, phone bill, everything seems to rise a little more every month. And the debts I carry from student loans and credit cards hang over me like a storm cloud I can't outrun. Sometimes I try to map out a budget, but it's like trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. Expenses climb faster than I can earn. I've cut out all non-essentials, no new clothes unless absolutely necessary, rarely eating out, skipping social events because I can't afford it. Every choice feels like a sacrifice, and yet, the relief is always temporary. The emotional toll is exhausting. I try to stay optimistic, but the constant financial tightrope leaves me anxious and drained. It's hard not to feel trapped, like I'm in a system designed to keep me running in place. I watch friends post pictures of weekend getaways, new gadgets, or apartment upgrades, things I used to dream about but now seem so far out of reach. There's this gnawing sense of falling behind, even though I'm working as hard as I can. Some days, I'm overwhelmed by the fear that I'll never catch up, that I'm just accumulating bills and stress without building any real foundation for the future. I want to believe that if I work harder, keep saving, maybe take a side gig, things will eventually get better. But it's hard to hold on to hope when the system seems so stacked against people like me. To cope, I try to focus on small moments of joy. I walk in the park, call my family, or binge-watch shows that take my mind off the stress. I lean on close friends, even if I have to explain why I can't always join in. Those connections remind me I'm not alone, even when it feels like the world expects me to just figure it out. The dreams I had, owning a place, traveling, starting a family someday, I've had to tuck them away for now. They feel like luxuries I have to postpone indefinitely. Instead, I tell myself to focus on stability, on surviving day by day. But there's a quiet sadness in that, a mourning for the life I imagined versus the one I'm living. It's hard not to blame myself, even though I know logically this isn't about personal failure. The economy isn't something I control, but it controls so much of my life. I wonder how many others feel this same squeeze, and how many will break under the pressure. Still, I hold on to a flicker of hope. Maybe one day the tide will turn. Maybe I'll find a way to build a life that isn't defined by constant financial stress. Until then, I keep moving forward, even if it's just inch by inch, carrying the weight but refusing to let it define me completely. It's hard to put into words what it feels like to live each day with a constant weight on your chest, a pressure you can't shake because it's not just about one bad day or even a bad month. It's this unrelenting grind where every penny you make seems to stretch thinner and thinner, while the bills pile up like they're competing to crush you. I'm 26, working full-time, but it often feels like I'm running in place on a treadmill that's speeding up, and no matter how fast I go, I'm not getting anywhere. I remember the first time I really noticed it. I was fresh out of college, full of hope and ambition, convinced that with a degree in hand, the world was mine to conquer. I landed a decent job, not glamorous, but steady enough to cover rent and groceries. At first, it felt like freedom. I'd treat myself to coffee from a cafe once a week, catch a movie now and then, maybe grab lunch out with friends. But then the rent went up. Groceries cost more. Gas, utilities, phone bills, all creeping higher without pause. And my paycheck? Barely budged. I found myself saying no more often than yes, skipping little joys, tightening the budget where I could. Now, each decision feels like a balance on a knife's edge. Should I eat out or cook at home? Should I fix the old laptop or just try to make do until it dies completely? Should I keep the heating on during these cold months or wrap myself in layers to save on the bill? Every choice is a mini battle between survival and sanity. It's exhausting. More than that, it's isolating. I watch friends around me buying new cars, moving into bigger apartments, traveling. I'm happy for them, I really am. But it stings because I know my reality is so different. When I bring up my struggles, people sometimes say, just budget better, or save more. It's not that simple. I'm not careless with money. I clip coupons, buy in bulk, track every dollar. But when your income doesn't keep pace with rising costs, there's no better budgeting that can stretch pennies into dollars. Emotionally, it's a roller coaster. There are days when I feel like I'm drowning, when the thought of another unexpected expense, a medical bill, a car repair, makes my heart race in panic. I lie awake at night thinking about what happens if I lose this job or if the landlord raises rent again. The anxiety gnaws at me, sometimes so badly I can't focus during the day. I catch myself slipping into self-blame, wondering if I'm just not smart or disciplined enough. But deep down, I know it's the system, the economic environment that's shifted beneath my feet, making it almost impossible to get ahead. And dreams? They feel like a distant luxury now. I used to imagine traveling to Europe, taking that photography class I always wanted, maybe even buying a place of my own one day. I put those dreams on hold because they seem frivolous against the backdrop of rent, bills, and the emergency fund that I can barely keep afloat. I tell myself it's temporary, that someday I'll get a raise, find a better job, or that the economy will improve. But each year that passes with the cost of living outpacing my paycheck chips away at that hope. Coping has become an art form of resilience and small joys. I find comfort in routines that don't cost much, a walk in the park, reading books borrowed from the library, cooking simple meals from scratch. I connect with friends over video calls instead of pricey outings. I've started journaling, pouring out frustrations and fears onto paper, which helps keep my mind from spiraling. Sometimes, I allow myself to daydream about a different life, one where money isn't a constant worry, and I cling to those moments like lifelines. But there's also a quiet anger inside me. Not at any person, but at a system that seems stacked against people like me. It's a system where wages stagnate, housing prices soar, and basic needs become luxuries. Where working hard isn't enough, and every unexpected expense threatens to unravel the fragile stability I've managed to build. That anger fuels a stubborn determination not to give up, to keep pushing for something better, even when the odds feel overwhelming. I don't want pity. I don't want to be defined by my struggles. I just want to be honest about what it's like to live in a world where economic pressure isn't just a line on the news, but a daily reality that shapes your every choice, your mental health, and your future. I want people to understand that behind every no to an invitation, every skipped treat, every sleepless night, there's a story of trying to survive and hoping for a day when the balance finally tips in my favor. Until then, I keep moving forward, sometimes slowly, sometimes stumbling, but always with the hope that someday, the system will change, and I'll be able to breathe a little easier, dream a little bigger, and live a life not defined by what I can't afford but by what I can truly become. I wake up most mornings with a knot in my stomach, that familiar weight pressing down on my chest before I even open my eyes. It's not the dread of a bad dream or a looming work deadline, it's the quiet, relentless anxiety about money. It's always there, like an unwelcome shadow following me from the moment I get up until I fall asleep, and sometimes even in my restless dreams. I'm 27 now, and I've been working full-time for almost 6 years, but it feels like I'm barely treading water. When I look back, I remember the hope I had when I landed my first job after college, thinking this was the start of building a life, finally moving toward the independence and stability I craved. But somewhere along the way, the math stopped adding up. My income has gone up slowly, just a couple of percentage points a year if I'm lucky. But everything else, the rent, groceries, transportation, utilities, those numbers seem to leap higher every few months like a relentless tide that never stops rising. Every paycheck stretches thinner and thinner, and the pressure of it is exhausting. On paper, my salary isn't terrible. I'm making enough to survive, but not to thrive. Not enough to feel secure, to save, or to plan for anything bigger than next month's bills. The rent alone takes a huge bite out of my paycheck. I live in a small, cramped apartment in the city, sharing a wall with noisy neighbors and staring at a brick wall from my window, but I tell myself it's a luxury compared to what others pay. Still, I constantly feel like I'm paying just to have a roof over my head, not to live. It's the little choices I make every day that remind me I'm trapped in this cycle. I skip buying coffee from the cafe and make it at home, even when it's the one comfort I crave during a tough day. I opt for bus rides instead of cabs, even if it means being late or uncomfortable. I cut back on social outings, knowing the price of a movie ticket or a night out will hit my budget harder than my desire to connect with friends. Sometimes I decline invitations just because I know I can't afford even the small extras, and that loneliness creeps in slowly, quietly. When I go grocery shopping, I'm constantly juggling. Do I buy the fresh produce, which is more expensive but better for my health? Or do I settle for canned and frozen foods that stretch further but leave me feeling sluggish? Do I pick up the generic brand or splurge a little for something I actually want? Every decision feels like a compromise, a balancing act between what I need and what I can afford. It's exhausting to make these small economic calculations every day. I don't talk about it much, partly because I'm embarrassed, partly because it feels like admitting defeat. There's this shame, like I should be able to handle it better, to make smarter choices, to somehow break free from this endless hamster wheel. But the truth is, no matter how careful I am, the numbers don't change. And the longer this goes on, the heavier the weight feels on my spirit. The emotional toll is real. Some days, I feel like I'm carrying a secret sadness that no one can see. I'm tired of worrying about money, tired of feeling like I'm missing out on life, tired of the small joys that are always just out of reach. I want to be hopeful, but it's hard when the future looks like more of the same. I've had dreams, of course. Dreams I used to believe were within reach before financial pressure took center stage. I wanted to travel, to see new places and experience different cultures. I imagined owning a home one day, having a small garden, maybe even a pet. I pictured evenings spent with friends around a table full of good food and laughter. I wanted to go back to school, maybe pursue a graduate degree or learn a new skill to advance my career. But all of those dreams have been postponed indefinitely. They feel like luxuries now, distant hopes tucked away in a drawer labeled someday. Coping with this constant pressure has been a journey. I've learned to find small moments of joy wherever I can, watching the sunset from my apartment window, going for a run in the park, or reading a good book borrowed from the library. I try to remind myself that my worth isn't defined by my bank account, even if it feels that way some days. I lean on the few close friends I trust, though I don't want to burden them with my financial struggles. Sometimes, I journal about my frustrations to get the emotions out instead of bottling them up. But most nights, when the apartment is silent and I'm alone with my thoughts, I wrestle with fear. Fear that this cycle won't end, that I'll keep working harder just to stay afloat while prices keep climbing faster than my income. Fear that one unexpected bill, a car repair, a medical expense, could send me spiraling. Fear that my dreams will remain just that, dreams. I want to believe there's a way out. I want to believe that if I keep pushing, keep saving, keep hoping, things will get better. But sometimes it feels like the system is designed to keep people like me trapped, where the cost of living outpaces the rewards of hard work, and no matter how much effort you put in, the finish line keeps moving farther away. I'm learning to be kind to myself through it all. To accept that it's okay to feel overwhelmed and vulnerable. To acknowledge that this struggle doesn't mean I'm failing. And maybe, just maybe, one day I'll find a way to break free, whether that's through a new opportunity, a change in circumstances, or a shift in the economy. Until then, I keep moving forward, step by cautious step, holding on to the hope that someday, the weight will lift. But for now, this is my reality, a constant balancing act in a world where expenses rise faster than income, where dreams have to wait, and where survival is a daily battle not just for money, but for peace of mind. And that's okay. Because even in the struggle, I'm still here. Still trying. Still hoping. I never thought I'd be here, sitting on the edge of my worn-out couch in a tiny apartment, staring at a spreadsheet of bills and expenses, wondering how I'm supposed to keep it all together. It's a feeling I've come to know too well, this constant weight on my chest, like a storm cloud that never really clears. I'm 27, working 2 jobs, trying to save a little here and there, but it never feels like enough. The numbers on my paycheck barely move, but the prices around me keep climbing, like a relentless tide pushing me further from the shore. Every day is a series of tiny battles. Should I buy groceries today, or pay the phone bill? Can I afford a night out with friends, or do I just stay in and save the $20? It sounds trivial, but these choices pile up until they feel like mountains. I remember when I first started my job after college, full of hope and energy. The dream was that with hard work, I'd build a life, a steady income, a little savings, maybe even a small apartment of my own someday. But the reality has been different. Rent keeps rising, utilities eat more of my paycheck every month, and inflation makes everything from toothpaste to public transit more expensive. It's like running on a treadmill that keeps speeding up while I'm already gasping for breath. There's this gnawing feeling of being trapped. I look at the economy reports, hear the news about wage stagnation and the growing gap between cost of living and income, and it's hard not to feel invisible, like the system wasn't made for people like me. I'm working hard, sometimes 60 hours a week, but the reward never seems to catch up. I can't save for emergencies, let alone invest in my future. The thought of buying a home feels like a cruel joke, a dream that's drifting further away each year. My friends talk about getting married, traveling, or starting families. For me, those conversations feel like reminders of what I have to postpone, maybe indefinitely. Some days, the stress seeps into my bones. I can't sleep because I'm thinking about the bills stacking up, the car that needs repairs, or the medical deductible I can't afford. Anxiety is a constant companion, whispering doubts about my worth and my ability to keep going. It's hard not to feel defeated when you're told again and again that if you just budget better, work harder, or make smarter choices, you'll be okay, as if it's a personal failure rather than a structural problem. The truth is, I do budget. I'm careful. I cut back on things most people wouldn't even notice. Yet it still isn't enough. Coping becomes its own challenge. I've learned to find small pockets of joy where I can, a walk in the park, a good book from the library, a phone call with someone who understands. Sometimes I journal, trying to get the noise out of my head. Other times, I just let myself cry in private, because bottling it up doesn't make the pressure any lighter. And then I get up the next day and do it all again, because the alternative feels worse. Despite everything, I still hold on to some hopes. I want to believe that one day, I'll be able to breathe without this tightness in my chest. That I'll find a career that pays enough to not just survive but live. That I'll travel somewhere new, see the world beyond these cramped city streets. That I'll buy a home with a garden or at least a space where I don't have to count every cent. But sometimes, I wonder if these dreams are just whispers from a past self, too fragile to survive the reality of rising costs and stagnant wages. It's hard to explain this kind of exhaustion, not just physical but emotional and mental. It's the fatigue of constantly fighting a system that feels rigged, of feeling like you're invisible in the grand scheme of things. And yet, even when it feels hopeless, there's a stubborn part of me that refuses to give up. Maybe that's what keeps me going, the hope that someday, somehow, the tide will turn, and I'll find solid ground beneath my feet again. For now, I'm here, paying my bills one at a time, trying to stay afloat in a world that seems designed to pull me under. It's not glamorous or heroic. It's just real, and honest, and sometimes unbearably hard. But it's my story, and I'm still writing it. It's 7 a.m., and my phone alarm drags me out of the thin veil of sleep I managed to catch before my mind started racing again. Another day. Another cycle of balancing on this fragile tightrope of bills, work, and trying not to drown in anxiety. I lie there for a moment, staring at the ceiling, wondering if today will be any different, if somehow, some way, the weight of everything might feel a little lighter. But deep down, I already know the answer. It won't. Not today. Not tomorrow. Not anytime soon. I'm 26, living in a city that's constantly getting more expensive, while my paycheck stays stubbornly stuck. It's like being caught in a storm where the rain keeps pouring, but your umbrella is full of holes. No matter how hard I try to cover myself, I still get soaked. Every month, rent climbs a little higher. Groceries cost more. Utilities tick upward. And my salary? It's barely budged in years. I remember a few years ago, right after college, feeling hopeful. I thought this would be the start of something. I imagined paying off my student loans in a couple of years, saving up for a small place of my own, maybe even taking a trip somewhere beautiful, somewhere I could breathe and feel free. But those dreams have all been pushed farther and farther out of reach. It's like the more I try to hold on to them, the more they slip through my fingers, fading into the background noise of survival. It's not just the money itself. It's the constant stress of it, that gnawing worry in the pit of my stomach when I open an unexpected bill or realize I'll have to skip groceries this week to cover rent. The way I second-guess every purchase, even the smallest ones. Do I really need that cup of coffee? Can I wait to buy groceries until the sale? Should I skip hanging out with friends so I don't spend on transportation? These questions echo in my head endlessly, chipping away at my peace. Some days, I feel trapped. Like I'm running in place on a treadmill that's speeding up. Expenses climb faster than I can earn. Debt piles up. Savings stay non-existent. And the system around me feels indifferent, built to keep people like me juggling a dozen jobs, or living paycheck to paycheck, with no real chance to get ahead. I look around and see others struggling too. Friends working 2 or 3 part-time jobs. Family members delaying their own medical care. People skipping meals to afford rent. We're all just trying not to fall through the cracks. The emotional toll is exhausting. There are nights when I cry quietly, afraid to let the anxiety fully surface. I feel ashamed, like I'm failing somehow. Like I should be stronger or smarter or luckier. But the truth is, it's not just me, it's a whole system rigged against the everyday person. And I carry that weight alone, even when surrounded by people who care. It's hard to explain this kind of exhaustion unless you've lived it. To cope, I've learned to build tiny routines and rituals that help me hold on. I journal a bit every night, trying to capture the little moments of hope or gratitude, even if they feel small or insignificant. I take walks when I can, just to clear my head. I reach out to friends and family when I can, even if it feels hard to admit how overwhelmed I am. Sometimes, I escape through books or podcasts, imagining different lives or futures. It's not much, but it's enough to keep me going, day after day. I've also learned to be fiercely creative with my budgeting. I clip coupons, shop sales, and meal prep with military precision. I hustle for side gigs, driving for rideshare apps or freelancing when there's time. Every extra dollar counts. But no matter how hard I hustle, it feels like I'm running uphill with weights tied to my legs. The finish line never moves closer. One of the hardest things is seeing how these financial pressures have changed me. I used to dream big. I wanted to travel, learn new skills, maybe start a business one day. I wanted to live in a cozy apartment filled with plants, art, and music. I imagined long conversations over coffee, spontaneous road trips, and a future where money wasn't the constant barrier. Now, those dreams seem like distant echoes, nice to think about, but not really possible right now. They've been postponed indefinitely, sitting on a shelf while I focus on surviving today. But even in this exhaustion, I still cling to hope. Maybe it's stubbornness. Maybe it's the quiet voice inside that says, this isn't the end. I hold on to the belief that someday, something will change. Maybe the economy will shift, maybe I'll get that promotion, maybe I'll find a way to break free from this cycle. For now, I'm taking it one day at a time, one small victory at a time. Paying the rent. Filling the fridge. Getting through work. Trying to remind myself that I am more than my financial struggles. Being young and feeling trapped like this is isolating. But sharing this feels like a kind of freedom too. Maybe if more people understood how many of us are living like this, it would start to change. Because none of us want to just survive. We want to live. We want to dream. And we want a chance, not just to get by, but to thrive. So here I am, still standing, still hoping. Still fighting the tide. waiting for the day when I can finally breathe easy, and the weight of money doesn't feel like a chain around my ankles. Until then, I keep going. Because what else can I do? I wake up every morning with this familiar, sinking feeling in my chest, like I'm already behind before the day even begins. It's not a dramatic panic or a sudden wave of anxiety, but a constant, dull pressure that weighs on me, like the air around me is just a bit too thick to breathe freely. I'm 27, living alone in a small apartment in the city, working a job that pays just enough to keep the lights on, the rent paid, and the fridge from being completely empty. But it's never really enough, not with the way everything costs more every month and my paycheck stubbornly refuses to grow at the same pace. I remember when I first moved out, about 5 years ago. I was hopeful, ambitious, ready to carve my own path. I dreamed of stability, of a little freedom, and maybe, just maybe, saving enough to buy a home one day. But reality hit hard, like a cold wave that I hadn't been prepared for. Rent rose every year, groceries got pricier, and even the little things, like my phone bill or a haircut, started to feel like luxury expenses. I kept telling myself I'd catch up eventually, that if I just worked a little harder, a little smarter, I'd be okay. But okay keeps moving further away. The most frustrating part is how expenses seem to spiral faster than I can keep up. One month I'll get a small raise, just a few dollars an hour, and it feels like a victory. But by the next rent increase, or when my car needs a fix, or when medical bills pop up unexpectedly, that raise is swallowed whole. It's like running on a treadmill that keeps speeding up while my legs tire. No matter how much effort I put in, I'm stuck in the same spot. There's a kind of loneliness to it, too. When your money's tight, you start declining invitations, even from the people you care about. You can't afford dinner out, a concert ticket, or even the occasional night at the movies. Social life slowly fades into texts and emojis, which aren't quite the same. Sometimes I feel like I'm disappearing from other people's lives because I'm not spending money. I hate that feeling, like I'm less present, less interesting, less worth sharing time with. But it's the truth. I try to cope by cutting back where I can, skipping my morning coffee, cooking the same cheap meals over and over, turning off the heat a little earlier in the winter. I check my bank account obsessively, mentally categorizing each expense as necessary or avoidable. Spoiler, almost nothing feels avoidable anymore. Even necessities have become a luxury. And some nights, when I'm lying awake, I think about what I'd do if something big went wrong, an accident, a job loss. It terrifies me because I know I wouldn't have a safety net. No family cushion, no savings, just a looming mountain of bills I'd never climb. The emotional toll is exhausting. Some days I feel this quiet desperation that I can't shake. I want to scream or cry, but I hold it in, pretending to be fine. It's easier that way. But underneath, there's a gnawing sense of failure, like I'm stuck in a system designed to keep people like me barely afloat. The news talks about inflation, recession, economic recovery, but none of it feels like it's happening to me. It's all headlines and graphs that don't translate into real relief. Instead, it's a series of trade-offs: pay this bill or buy food, fix the car or save for a doctor's visit. My dreams have shifted, too. When I was younger, I wanted to travel, maybe start a family someday, even go back to school. Those dreams feel like distant stars now, beautiful but unreachable. I've had to postpone or completely abandon so many plans because they require resources I just don't have. It hurts to admit it, but sometimes I worry that those dreams might never come true. That instead of moving forward, I'm just surviving day to day. Still, I hold on to hope, even if it feels fragile. I remind myself that my worth isn't tied to my bank balance or how many bills I can pay on time. I try to find small moments of joy: a good book borrowed from the library, a sunset scene from my window, a call with a friend. These things keep me grounded when the weight feels too heavy. And I keep searching for ways to improve my situation, whether that's applying for a better job, learning new skills, or budgeting more strictly. It's a slow, grinding process, but it's something. Talking about all this, even now, feels like pulling back a curtain I usually keep closed. It's vulnerable, uncomfortable. But maybe it's necessary to acknowledge the struggle honestly, without shame or false optimism. Because if there's one thing I've learned, it's that financial pressure isn't just about numbers on a screen or monthly statements. It's about the erosion of hope, the quiet sacrifices, and the resilience that keeps you moving forward even when the system feels designed to hold you back. I never thought I'd feel this way in my 20s, like I'm drowning in bills, barely keeping my head above water, and wondering if I'll ever catch a break. Growing up, I was always taught that hard work pays off, that if you stay steady, save a bit, and make smart choices, you'd build a stable life. But the reality I live now is nothing like that neat, hopeful picture. Every morning, I wake up and check my bank account before even getting out of bed. It's become this automatic, almost desperate ritual. I scan for any sign of progress, any unexpected little deposit that might ease the pressure just for a moment. But most days, I just see the same numbers, the same small balance that barely covers the essentials. Rent, utilities, groceries, they keep growing faster than my paycheck, which hasn't really changed in years. And yet, somehow, the cost of living feels like it's on an endless upward climb. I work full-time in a job I don't hate, but also don't love. It pays the bills, but only just. Every extra dollar I manage to set aside feels like a small victory, but those victories are so rare. I've learned to ration everything, my meals, my time, even my emotions. Saying no to plans with friends because I can't afford the bus fare or the price of a coffee out. Skipping doctor visits because the copays add up. Turning off the heat in winter and layering up with every piece of clothing I own because I can't justify the electric bill. It's exhausting in ways that don't just touch my bank account but seep deep into my spirit. I think the hardest part is the feeling of being trapped. Like I'm running on a treadmill that keeps speeding up, but my legs can't go any faster. I want to get ahead, to save for something bigger, maybe a place of my own, maybe a little emergency fund so I'm not constantly terrified of a flat tire or a broken phone, but every month, it slips further out of reach. The system feels rigged against people like me. Inflation climbs, rents skyrocket, student loans hover over my head like a dark cloud, and wages stay stubbornly low. It's a cruel irony that in a world of abundance and opportunity, so many of us are struggling just to survive. Sometimes, the weight of it all is too much. I lie awake at night thinking about what life was supposed to be like versus what it is now. I used to dream big, travel the world, start my own business, maybe go back to school and finish the degree I had to put on hold. But those dreams feel distant now, almost selfish. Who has the time or money to chase something so uncertain when there's rent to pay and food to put on the table? The hope I carried feels like it's slowly dimming, replaced by a cautious, defensive kind of survival. Emotionally, it's been a roller coaster. There are days when I feel like I'm doing okay, when I manage to keep the bills paid and even save a few dollars. But those are fragile moments, shattered easily by an unexpected expense, a car repair, a medical bill, or even a birthday gift for a friend that I can't skip. The stress gnaws at me constantly, making it hard to focus or relax. I catch myself withdrawing, not because I want to, but because I'm afraid to burden others with my worries. Pride and shame mix in a complicated dance, and sometimes I just want to scream out loud, but I hold it all inside. Coping is its own challenge. I find comfort in small rituals, cooking a simple meal, going for a walk in the park, listening to music that reminds me of better days. I journal my thoughts sometimes, trying to make sense of the mess in my head. Talking to close friends helps, but I'm careful about how much I share. There's an unspoken stigma around financial struggles that makes vulnerability risky. Still, I remind myself that I'm not alone, even if it often feels that way. Despite everything, I try to hold on to hope. Not the flashy, unrealistic kind, but the quiet, stubborn belief that things can get better. That maybe one day, with enough grit and a bit of luck, I'll find a way out of this pressure cooker. I dream about waking up and not having to check my balance first thing. About not having to say no so often. About investing in myself again, whether that's through education, travel, or just more freedom to breathe and live fully. But for now, I'm here. Taking it one day at a time, navigating the endless cycle of expenses and small incomes. It's hard, sometimes heartbreaking, and often invisible to the outside world. Yet, in the midst of this struggle, I'm still trying to find meaning and build a life that feels worth living, even if it looks different than I imagined. This is my reality. A young adult caught in a system that's always pushing the cost of living higher, while my income stays stubbornly low. It's a story of frustration, resilience, and hope, messy, imperfect, and deeply human. And if sharing it helps someone else feel seen, maybe that's a step towards something better. Because while I feel trapped today, I'm not giving up on the possibility of freedom tomorrow. I don't even know where to begin because every day feels like a loop of the same struggle, the same tight squeeze around my chest. It's like I'm stuck on this endless treadmill that just speeds up no matter how hard I run. I'm 26, working 2 part-time jobs that barely cover rent, bills, and the basic groceries I try to get each week without breaking my budget. But no matter what I do, it feels like the costs creep up faster than my paycheck, like some invisible force pushing me deeper into this pressure cooker. Every morning, I wake up before the sun, my body heavy with exhaustion I can't shake. I make coffee, the cheapest brand I can find, and scroll through the news on my phone. Inflation rates, rent hikes, fuel prices rising again. I try to shield myself from all of it, but it's everywhere, like a dark cloud that follows me. I think about how just a few years ago, I had dreams that felt reachable, a small apartment of my own, maybe a trip somewhere new, even saving up enough to start grad school. Now those dreams feel like distant stars I can't touch. The economic environment is a daily storm. I see it in the grocery store when I pick up the essentials and realize the price tags are higher than last month, in the electricity bill that's almost doubled since last year, in the rent notices that hint at another increase. It's maddening and exhausting. I try to budget, but the math never adds up the way I want it to. There's always something unexpected, a busted phone screen, a health checkup, or the car that needs fixing just to keep me going to work. Each expense feels like a weight added to a backpack already stuffed too full. Sometimes I wonder if it's me. Maybe I'm not managing my money well enough, or I'm not doing enough to get ahead. But then I see the news stories, the statistics about wage stagnation while living costs skyrocket, and I realize it's not just me, it's the system. A system built to keep people like me running faster, working harder, but never quite breaking free. Emotionally, it's a constant battle. I try to stay positive, but the stress is like a low hum in the background of my mind, creeping into every corner of my day. I can't always sleep because I'm thinking about bills or how I'm going to get by next month. Social gatherings feel out of reach because I can't justify spending money on anything non-essential. I've said no to so many invitations, watched friends travel or buy new things while I stayed home, saving every penny just to feel safe for another week. Sometimes, in moments of honesty with myself, I admit I'm scared. Scared that I'll be stuck like this forever, that the gap between my income and my expenses will only grow wider. Scared that my hopes for a better future will slip away, replaced by a constant fight just to survive. It's a lonely feeling, even when I'm surrounded by people. Because how do you explain this pressure, this quiet panic, to those who don't live it? To cope, I try to find small victories. I make coffee at home instead of going out, I swap expensive meals for homemade versions, I track every penny and celebrate when I manage to save even a tiny bit. I talk to close friends about my struggles, and sometimes that helps, just to hear a voice that understands or to feel less alone in the chaos. I read stories online from others in the same boat, which makes me feel like we're all fighting this same fight together, even if it's invisible to most. The hardest part is the dreams I've had to put on hold. I wanted to finish my degree, to get a steady, full-time job with benefits. I wanted to move to a city where I could meet new people, start fresh. I dreamed of traveling, seeing places that expand my world beyond these 4 walls and the stress that lives in them. But each time I try to take a step forward, reality pulls me 2 steps back. The savings vanish, opportunities slip away, and I'm left patching the holes just to keep afloat. I hope, I really do, that one day things will change. That wages will catch up, that rents will stabilize, that I'll be able to breathe easier and maybe dream bigger again. Until then, I keep pushing, keep fighting, because the alternative feels worse. I remind myself that this pressure, while heavy, is not the whole story of my life. I still have moments of joy, laughter, and connection. And maybe, just maybe, one day soon, those moments will grow stronger, and I'll find a way out of this loop. But for now, I live it day by day, trapped in a system that asks so much but gives so little back. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos. Also, leave a comment, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.